Welcome, everyone. My name is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host of my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. In this particular episode, to be published on March the 11th, episode 58, entitled, What's the Message When Your Life is in Chaos? Complete chaos there. It's just completely so many obstacles, so much drama, so many times that different things doesn't really happen, or the results that you thought would happen is just not on point. So it's a very disarray type of atmosphere experiences that you're experiencing. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And this day I am thankful to the prime creator of all things, that I give thanks for this blessing and opportunity, that I will use it for the greater good. So welcome, my survivors of the journey, to my podcast that aims to inspire and motivate, that you will continue to have joy, peace of mind, and for your sustained success. For this episode entitled, What's the Message When Your Life is in Chaos? So let's go ahead and get started, where I want to focus on those types of elements that occur both in our work life and personal life as well, that does require a type of strategy or strategies that will help you to overcome the obstacles, identify the situations that can bring you into a much more better place for mental peace and for joyfulness. Now, the workplace is very challenging because you're definitely dealing with a whole bunch of different personalities and people with authority that have control, have control of your day-to-day type interaction of doing your job, or even with customers or so forth, or just working with other colleagues, and your personal life as well. But that's kind of actually in a different type aspect, but still challenging in itself, when especially if they're related to you in some way and you have to deal with them on that regard. And the other alternative is a complete rejection of that and cutting them off. So in that retrospect, chaos can occur by other people or just by the choices that we make. But overall, through all of that situation that I just outlined there, I believe there's a message in your chaos when it comes, because everybody has that moment on their journey where they are engulfed with it, that it takes, sometimes it's for years, decades, sometimes it's just for a season or a moment. And I believe that it is a message in that, either good or bad, and you have to get that message so you can be in the position to make the choices that you are required to move out of that and get to those sunny days, that mental peace, the wisdom, right? The plateau of wisdom, I'll have to call that. So let me get to my first segment, starting off my podcast today. And that is my important point. Number one is that chaos could be your breakthrough to get a better way that serves the greater good, especially if the chaos has been for a while. That's a huge message, a very huge message. The key is observation that you must take in order to determine if it is or it is the worst, and get that perspective so you can decide to move on. Now, I did a segment, a podcast a couple of weeks ago, where I said your heart and your mind are in alignment, and I advise you to go back and check that out. Please share it to someone that can benefit from that. And basically that podcast deal with when we are attached to things from our heart perspective, because I feel like your mind is looking at the situation one way and then your heart is looking at it a different way. And most of the time, I will have to say, if not all the time, the heart doesn't really want to grade or assess initially in the beginning of someone or something. So therefore the attachment grows over time. The bond is very tight and it's hard to let go. Your heart is the last to detach. That's why it's been taking you so long, when you reach that perspective and all this chaos that, oh, I gotta make a decision. And a lot of people, I notice, don't like to make the decision to let go or to move past it or to see what's the truth is. Okay, so for that, let me move on to my wisdom point, which is chaos is a wake up. It's a wake up call to determine which turn in your life on this journey requires immediate focus and the immediate decision making that is required to either push you forward or stay stagnated for a long, long time. I have met people that have stayed in a situation and has not moved, and it has been decades, and they continue to repeat the after effect. It's like an earthquake. There's always an after effect of results of the situation where it's a lot of damage. Okay, so in a humanity type perspective on that, the damage is emotional damage, emotional pain, and people still hold on because they still want to believe in what was told to them or what they assume it would be in the beginning. So let me focus on my next segment in my podcast, which I talk about the why. Why is this so? Well, chaos exists by alerting you what is really going on, for you to sit and take a break and think things through, which is hard to do in our busy lifestyle that we all are under. So the message, and the immediate message, no matter what's going on, before you even get to the part that you have to make a choice, once you find out the whole root of it and what you're going to do about it, is to take the initial message that if the chaos is coming on, the message is for you to hold up. You need to take a look at something. You need to be alert about something that is major, because in life we always have to seek balance. In balance we get our peace, and with our peace, that's mental peace, right? And in our joyfulness, that's our emotional joyfulness that is tied to the spirit, which I like to call something that you feel but you do not see. And that position me as to relay the messages and the hope and the motivation that I do in my treats, on my tweet account, or that I do in my writing, that God has blessed me to use my writing ability to communicate that way and to influence people. That when I say about the spirit, how it's tied to, because I want to be able to give people the knowledge to help to succeed. I don't want to give them half of the story, half of the resolution. I want to give them all of it, and I really do feel that that's part of it. And by you connecting of how I describe it to people that might have different beliefs or a different foundation of what they understand of how they place things in order in their mind of what they believe in or what have you, or believe in something totally different than the next, we can at least come together that we are humans, and in that we have experienced that, something that we feel but we do not see. So when I focus on my next segment about the who from the why, who are we talking about? Well, especially those people that requires a timeout. And now I'm basically focusing on when the chaos enter our lives, okay? And it would gives us the motivation, or at least the wake-up call, to reflect after the many hectic occurrences that wears us down. Your mood. People say, I don't know why she's always sad. She has this and she has that. Why she has mood? It's tied to your emotional self, which is tied to the spirit. And when I talk about corporate America, and in my book, Corporate America, Surviving Your Journey, I hold on to three things. Number one thing is the attitude. Well, the attitude is your mood, and the mood is tied to your emotional health, and your health is challenged in the chaos. That's why most people scream, yell, kick, cry, do all types of things. They can't handle the heat. And that's saying we have here in the United States, if you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. Sometimes you're thrown in the kitchen and you know you don't know how to cook, and you're in this mess. And sometimes it's from our own choices, and sometimes it is not. And over time, when I say who are we talking about, I'm talking about basically all of us that has experienced one way or the other. And some of those symptoms and descriptors of the behavior is our mood changes, right? And it is an opportunity for us to determine which way to go. And often of times people find themselves in a place of looking for answers, right? And trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, who is the person they need to trust. Because actually it could be the thing or the person that is causing the chaos still in our lives. And it is a revolving door when we don't want to stop, take the moment and reflect and ask ourselves, is it really worth it? Because most of the time in initial of the phase, we are very confused, right? We don't have all the information or all the answers, and we don't know what to do, and our heart is still attached and we don't want to let go. And so in that sense, it is a revolving door, meaning that the chaos has been continued. It might stop, then it continues again, then it continues again, and it's short phases that we're thinking we're having peace, but then it starts right back up again. So, which is a big sign for a change is needed, and that is a message from the chaos. So what are we actually talking about? Well, chaos comes from someone else, or it comes from your choices, and I believe it's rooted in Mr. Fear. He's still around, and I think will continue to be around until it's time that he won't be. But nonetheless, when it is coming from someone else, let's talk about that. It is hard to see. So you have to be an observant to identify if they are serving you in the good of life or not, and choose to remove them. If your heart is still attached to it, then you have to continue to talk to your heart to let it go. If you even have to write a list. So that's what we're talking about, what the chaos means. The chaos means it's time for you to decide if you want this to continue. After, when I mentioned earlier in my segment of the constant reoccurrence of disruption of your peace and the things and the incidents that keeps occurring. So when it comes from your choices, though, if we focus on that, what we are talking about, you have to take that break, and that's not like in a couple of seconds, but in moments of times and days and hours or weeks, to review what you did, and based on your choices, was it correct or was it not? Now, for example of that, it could be, if we say the workplace, constantly toxicity, right? We have to go to the root, which I always believe at the end of the day always stops at the leader, because eventually the leader is going to find out who is who that's not being a team player, and eventually it will come to the leader to decide how to handle it. Sometimes the leaders don't know, management don't know that it's a subordinate, and because they so tricky in that sense and two-faced at times, that they have to really be on point of it. And those chaotic situations is telling you, is it worth it? Is it worth your health? This is the message. And then you go to the doctor, or you go talk to a therapist, or you do something in the sense of getting clarity, and come to find out you should have looked at that a while ago, but maybe it was just because your life is so busy, but it has bored up to a point that you have to reflect that this job is more unhealthy than a healthy aspect in my life based on finances. It's not worth it. That was the message. So if we look also further on what are we talking about, it also can reflect when Mr. Fear comes into play, and it's mainly him, not necessarily your choices, but Mr. Fear is the most important thing I want you to get from this podcast. When you checked off that you're making the best choices that you can make based on what you got to work with. Okay, and that could be in a personal relationship, because no relationship with someone else is perfect, but you got to keep that balance, and majority of the time it's peaceful and you work as a team. Check mark, that's what you're looking for in a mate. The second thing, when I mentioned about taking a break and maybe it's your choices, over time you've been making bad choices, and you need to reflect to make good ones. Check mark, you have corrected that. So if those two things are on the check mark, then it's Mr. Fear working against you, because you're doing everything that you need to be doing. That is a big indicator, big message that a change is about to happen in your life. You about to be, as we say in the spiritual and religious realm, about to be blessed. Okay, either you're going to get another better job, or heck, you might get a better mate. Okay, that you both on the same page, there's respect, on and on, the greatness and the joyfulness of that. And perhaps you're actually going to get the thing that you need, not necessarily what you want, but what you need. Mr. Fear, number one goal is to distract you to impact your choices, because he already know your future. And so that's his way of shaking the cage, so you don't think it's a way out of this, and you end up making what number 2 point that I mentioned, your choices start not being on point, and then he get the upper hand because you never made it across the bridge of your journey. Don't do it. Okay? So here are some strategies to succeed. Number one, you need to take a break. If your life being in a chaos type environment and it's this way and it's that way and you don't know what's up or down, it's time for you to make a list. What is not going as you need. All right? Not what you want it to be, what you need it to be. That gets you to the root, that gets you to the divine, that gets you to the spirit on the physical plane. You have to come to this game of life that I learned full blazing. You have to be the leadership, the CEO of your life. You have to balance the people that you allow in it, and even the people that you don't really have too much control because you're at work, but still be in the balance of control of your life. And I did an episode before. I need to do a particular episode on stress. Stress is the number one indicator that the chaoticness of your life needs to be handled very delicately but immediately, and you have to be consistent with it. So that's the strategy to number one. Take the moment, like you plan for your vacation, you plan for your lunch, you plan for this, plan for you. Because if something's going on, it might just be one person. I had a project team, and it was one person that was doing all types of things. And once I removed that one person, the rest of the team got realigned. You see what I'm saying? It took a leader to make a choice after it was assessed of what was the culprit of causing the chaotic disruption of the team. And once I did that, not only I got the peace, but my team members got the peace that they needed to get, and we was able to move on. Number two, if chaos repeats in your life, means it's a constant cycle. The date has changed. It's a different day, it's a different time, but it's the same craziness. It's the same chaotic mess. Your message is that then you must conduct your choices forward that will change the game. If you did this the same way, if they did that the same way, you will reverse it. That is something different. And I think they say, is it Albert Einstein? Any person that continues to do the same thing is a sign of insanity. You got to keep telling yourself that to give you motivation. Because when chaos are under the disguise to prevent you to move forward, that you know in your gut that it is the right journey, path, going the opposite way, but our heart again tugs on it, keeps you there, that's Mr. Fear trying to discourage you to give up. So in this strategy is for you to stay motivated to identify which is which and do the opposite of what was done continuously before. So in time, all we will reveal is that your purpose and your mission is to not to stay in a confused state, because truth will find you because of the divine. It must be revealed to you in the right time on your journey. You just got to believe it and do it. So your task to Dusk to Dawn is focused on the chaos events as a way to do inventory to what is really going on at the root cause of it that identifies your choices forward or backward. Time is to use a journey list of good and bad negative things that serve no purpose. So in the longest of the chaotic type, it serves a way to identify that you should not procrastinate, that you should be motivated to move forward. And by meditating and praying, that's your task to Dawn, to keep it going, to keep moving, and that soon that chaotic environment and circumstances will cease and you will get your peace. I am a testimony to that. So your motivational takeaway is chaos could be your breakthrough to choose to change your life in doing and being, as well as allowing others that no longer serve the good in your circle of life to let them go and to move on to a better life. Thank you for my podcast episode from my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey to Success, just to give you some information to not only stay in contact, but with the other things that I offer. I provide career consultation, offering the first 30 minutes are free. Thereafter, there is a fee excess afterwards per hour and can be discussed on a case-by-case basis, depending on your need. So if it is an emergency and you need some consultation regarding your career or choices that you're about to make moving forward, in a sense, in your personal type objectives, then you can definitely contact me. The primary way to contact me is by email, which is info@nichelanderson.com. Now, I do have a toll-free number on my website. Now, that is actually only for webinars, when I'm doing like a free webinar and you're calling in. Once that number is through that medium, and it's only really for that, so it's not really connected to me directly. Now, I am working on that, but for right now it's not really, and when that changes, you would definitely get a notice of that to go forward. So just to recap, my primary way is info@nichelanderson.com. All right, so the other thing I want to share with you is that I also provide business courses and self-improvement courses. So that overall objective is to help you to create strategies that work for you, to get you motivated, to identify the ways to get your or keep your joy and your mental peace. So I do provide that on the basis of your objective to gain success, and as I like to say, sustain success. You can find information on my courses that I release on my official website, which is www.nichelanderson.com, and you can go there and you can look at the different courses that I am releasing that are available. These courses are self-paced. They will be identified if they're considered to be like live sessions on a regular basis, but for the most part they are self-paced. During that time, I do have live sessions that once you have signed up for the course, you will see that in the schedule of what days that I'm available live, that you can talk to me and we can go over the courses going forward, right, on those particular topics. So that information is basically on my website that you can go to, which is nichelanderson.com. Now, I want to do a special call out for listeners that I have seen in my stats that are following me, continue to follow me, which I am thankful for. Now, to get connected more, to stay connected, I'm asking you to consider to join my newsletter that I do send out. And to do that, you just have to submit, of course, your name and your email. I don't spam. You could always request to be taken off the list. I don't send thousands of emails because I don't like thousands of emails from a particular source. So I keep it in a way that's informative, of course, because obviously you like the content because you hear and you enjoy it and you're getting something from it, which pleases me. To expand that and to move forward and to get into other ways that I can expand what I'm trying to do is to form a newsletter, to get that set up in the sense that I'm communicating that I can send that out more quickly, actually, through a podcast or any type of thing or production that I'm doing, where a newsletter is more, in the sense, faster to get that contact and to send it out on blast, right? And more opportunity to send more content compared to like social media characters to be able to get that message out. So do consider that to join my newsletter by providing, and you can find that link at the end of each episode. I have that link to basically to sign up here for Nichel E-List Tips newsletter. And you could do that and you can see that and click, and it's a short form, online form. It is secured and you can complete that. All right, the other thing I want to talk about is basically to subscribe to this podcast. If you haven't, please go ahead. Of course, this is going through Podbean. I have 2 podcasts. This one, of course, you're listening to is Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. And you can subscribe. Of course, you should see the subscribe button here at the bottom of this episode or at the top, whichever device that you're using. Now, I'm also available on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, on Google Play, on iTunes, and any other podcast directories for feed distribution. You can connect that way and subscribe, and if you like it, share it. Now, I am on social media, and so you do hear me a lot talk about Twitter. I'm mostly active on Twitter. I'm also active on Facebook. For the most part right now is Twitter, and I like the whole concept of keeping it short and sweet. In my closing, I want to say thank you again for joining me today. Here is my closing statement for you. Be you that strengthens and inspires your ability to be strong in your journey endeavor. It's a good thing towards your mental peace and joy, always to your success.